The observation deck of the Galactic Council station floated high above the frozen planet. Inside, dozens of alien beings watched the screens with great interest. Some had scales, some had fur, and some were just clouds of colored gas held together by force fields. They all looked down at the white world below. Council Speaker Vroth stood at the center. His forearms moved as he spoke to the gathered crowd. We are here to witness another species attempt the ice trial. This test has existed for 200,000 years. 847 species have tried to pass it. 0 have succeeded. The aliens in the room made various sounds of agreement. Everyone knew about the ice trial. It was famous across the galaxy. It was also known as the test that could not be won. The rules are simple, Vroth continued. Survive for 72 hours on the frozen surface. The temperature is minus 45 degrees in your measurement system. The wind never stops. Each species gets basic tools only. No advanced technology, no weapons, no communication devices except for emergency evacuation. On the main screen, a small ship appeared in the planet's atmosphere. It began its descent toward the ice below. Today we test a new species, Vroth said. They call themselves humans. They come from a planet called Earth. It is a world of extreme conditions, deserts that burn, oceans that freeze, mountains that touch the sky, jungles full of creatures that want to eat them. These humans claim they can adapt to anything. An insectoid council member clicked its mandibles together. They all say that. The Vrek said the same thing last year. They lasted 4 hours. The Krell before them managed 5 hours, added a floating gas being. And they had natural armor. Vroth nodded his large head. Yes, most species evacuate within 6 hours. Some refuse to call for help and die instead. We have never understood why this test is so impossible. The physics seem simple. Stay warm, stay alive. Yet no one has ever done it. The human ship landed on the ice with a soft thump. The doors opened and 6 figures stepped out into the freezing wind. They wore thick clothing, but nothing more advanced than what the rules allowed. Each one carried a simple pack on their back. The lead human was named Do-hyun. He was tall and moved with calm confidence. He looked around at the endless white landscape and nodded to himself. Next to him stood Hana, who immediately pulled out a small device to measure the temperature and wind speed. On his other side, Nari adjusted her medical pack and watched their surroundings carefully. Behind them came Wu Jin, Taiho, and Yuna. They formed a tight group and waited for instructions from Do-hyun. Remember the plan, Do-hyun said through their short-range communicators. We observe first. We learn about the environment. Then we act. Up on the station, the council members watched this with confusion. What are they doing? Asked one alien. Why are they just standing there? Maybe they are frozen already, suggested another with a laugh. But Vroth watched more carefully. He noticed that the humans were not panicking. They were not trying to run or hide. They were studying everything around them. On another part of the frozen planet, 3 other species had also arrived for the trial. The Vreks were a proud reptilian race from a desert world. Their leader stood tall, his red scales gleaming even in the dim light of the distant sun. We will succeed where others failed, the Virex leader announced to his team. Our scales can absorb any heat that exists. We will share our body warmth and survive together. The Krell came next. They were insect-like creatures with hard shells covering their bodies. Their commander clicked orders to her soldiers. We dig into the ice. We create caves. Our shells will protect us from the cold. We will win this trial. The third species were the Thum, beings made of gas and energy. They had no solid form, only consciousness held together by their own mental power. Their speaker's voice came through a translation device. We will disperse into the ice itself. We will become one with the frozen water. We cannot freeze if we are already part of the cold. The council watched all 4 species with equal interest. Bets were being made quietly. Most aliens thought the Vreks would last longest. A few believed in the Krell. Almost no one bet on the humans. The humans look weak, observed a furry council member. Their bodies are soft. They have no natural armor. No thick fur, no scales, just thin skin. Their planet file says they come from a world of extreme variety, Vroth said slowly. They have lived in frozen lands, burning deserts, high mountains, and deep underwater. Their files mention something called adaptation through technology and learned survival skills. All species have survival skills, dismissed another council member. It means nothing against true cold. Down on the surface, Do-hyun gathered his team in a circle. The wind howled around them, but they stood close together. "Hana, what are the readings?" he asked. Hana looked at her simple measurement tools. Wind speed is constant at 40 kilometers per hour. Temperature is minus 45 degrees Celsius. The snow has different densities depending on where we look. Some areas are packed hard by the wind. Some areas are soft and fresh. "Good," Do-hyun said. "Woo-jin, check the snow quality in different spots. We need to know which type will work best for what we need." Woo-jin nodded and moved away, kneeling to examine different patches of snow and ice. "Taiho," Do-hyun continued. "Watch the other species. Learn from their attempts. See what works and what fails." The young xenobiologist grinned despite the cold. "Already on it. Yuna, start thinking about structures. Look at the wind patterns. Find the best location for what we will build." Yuna, the architect, pulled out a small notebook and began sketching, her hands steady even in the freezing air. "Nari, monitor everyone's health. First sign of frostbite or hypothermia, we adjust our plan." The medic checked each person quickly, nodding with satisfaction. "Everyone is good for now. Our clothing is holding up well." Up on the station, confusion grew among the council members. "What are they doing?" demanded the insectoid member. "They are not trying to survive. They are just looking at snow." "Perhaps they have given up already," suggested someone. But Vroth noticed something others did not. The humans were working together perfectly. Each one had a specific task. Each one trusted the others completely. And most importantly, they were not rushing into action like every other species had done. "How long has it been?" asked a council member. 1 hour, came the answer. "The Vreks are starting to shiver. The Krell are digging. The Thum are attempting to disperse. But the humans—" Vroth paused, watching the screens carefully. "The humans are still studying. They will fail like all the others," said the insectoid confidently. "No species can survive the ice trial. It is impossible. The cold always wins." But as the humans continued their careful observations, something in Vroth's ancient mind stirred, a memory from long ago. A notation in the human species file that he had briefly seen, something about their history. Something about frozen lands and survival. He could not quite remember what it said. Down on the ice, Do-hyun smiled quietly to himself as Woo-jin returned with his report about the snow. The plan was already forming. They had everything they needed right here beneath their feet. The trial had only just begun. 3 hours had passed since the landing. The Galactic Council members watched their screens with growing interest. The trial was starting to show results, and not the kind anyone expected. The Vreks were the first to show signs of serious trouble. Their leader had gathered his team into a tight circle, trying to share their body heat as planned. At first it seemed to work. Their scales, designed to absorb the heat of their desert sun, tried desperately to hold on to any warmth their bodies produced. But the frozen planet was not like their desert home. Here, heat did not come from outside. It had to come from within, and the Vreks' bodies were not designed to produce heat in extreme cold. Taiho watched them from a distance, his observation tools recording everything. He spoke into his communicator to the rest of the team. "The Vreks are in trouble. Their scales are designed for heat absorption, not heat generation. They are losing body temperature fast." Do-hyun acknowledged this information with a simple nod. His team continued their own careful work. On the council station, alarms began beeping. The Vreks' life signs were dropping dangerously low. "Their core temperature is falling below safe levels," announced the medical officer. "They need evacuation." The Vreks' leader refused at first. His pride would not let him admit defeat so quickly. But as his team members began to collapse, he had no choice. At the 4-hour mark, a rescue ship descended through the frozen atmosphere. The Vreks were taken aboard, their bodies stiff and shaking. In the observation deck, several council members made sounds of disappointment. Money changed hands as bets were settled. 4 hours, said one alien. "Better than I expected, but still typical." "Now watch the Krell," said another. "They will do better. They have shells." Down on the ice, the Krell were working hard on their survival plan. Their commander had led them to a large snowdrift, and they were digging with their strong limbs. Their idea was simple but logical. Get under the surface, away from the wind. Create a cave where they could wait out the 72 hours. The first hour of digging went well. They created a tunnel into the packed snow, then began hollowing out a larger space inside. The wind could not reach them here. The temperature was slightly less cold than outside, But then the problems began. Yuna watched from a safe distance, her trained eyes seeing what the Krell could not. She spoke quietly into her communicator. Their shells are cracking. The extreme cold is making the material brittle. She was right. The Krell exoskeletons were strong, but they were designed for their homeworld's climate. In the terrible cold of the trial planet, the biological material that made up their shells was becoming fragile. Each movement, each dig into the hard ice created tiny stress fractures. The cracks spread. One Krell soldier tried to dig deeper and his claw arm snapped completely. He made a clicking sound of pain and distress. The commander tried to continue, but more of her team were experiencing the same problem. Their natural armor, their greatest strength, had become their weakness. The shells that protected them were breaking apart. At the 5-hour mark, the Krell commander made the difficult choice to call for evacuation. The rescue ship came again, collecting the injured insectoid beings and taking them to safety. 5 hours, Vroth announced to the council chamber. The Krell lasted 1 hour longer than the Vrex, but they too have failed. What about the Thuum? Someone asked. All eyes turned to the screens showing the gaseous beings. The Thuum had attempted something that no solid species could try. They had dispersed their consciousness into the ice itself, spreading their energy through the frozen water molecules. For a while, it seemed like it might work. The Thuum had no bodies to freeze. They were already energy and thought. How could cold hurt them? But the council's science officers began noticing strange readings at the 5.5-hour mark. Their energy signatures are weakening, reported the officer. The cold is affecting their molecular bonds. They are beginning to solidify. This was something the Thuum had not considered. Their gaseous forms relied on energy and movement to maintain consciousness. But the extreme cold was slowing their particles down. They were not freezing like water freezes. They were becoming locked in place, their thoughts slowing, their awareness dimming. The Thuum themselves realized the danger. With great effort, they pulled their dispersed consciousness back together into a single point. But several of them could not fully reform. Parts of their being remained trapped in the ice, frozen in place. The emergency evacuation came quickly. The rescue ship used special energy collectors to gather the Thuum and bring them to safety. Medical teams would need to carefully restore those who had been partially frozen. 5.5 hours, Vroth said quietly. 3 species have failed. The insectoid council member who had been so confident earlier clicked his mandibles in frustration. This is exactly what always happens. Every species thinks they have the answer. Every species discovers they were wrong. The ice trial cannot be beaten. What about the humans? Asked the furry alien. Everyone turned to look at the screens showing the human team. What they saw confused them greatly. The humans had not tried to huddle together for warmth like the Vrex. They had not dug caves, like the Krell. They had not attempted any energy manipulation like the Thuum. Instead, they had spent the entire 5.5 hours doing something that seemed completely pointless to the watching aliens. The humans were studying snow. Wu Jin had collected samples from dozens of different locations. He had tested which snow was hard, which was soft, which had been packed by the wind, and which had fallen fresh. He had measured depth and density and crystal structure. Hana had been measuring wind patterns. She had planted small markers in the ice and watched how the wind moved around them. She had identified areas where the wind was strongest and areas where it created natural shelters. Yuna had been sketching constantly. Her notebook was filled with drawings and calculations. She had measured angles and distances. She had studied the way natural snowdrifts formed and where they were most stable. Taiho had watched the other species fail, taking notes on what went wrong. He had also been studying the local environment, looking for any resources that might be useful. Nari had been monitoring everyone's health carefully. She had checked body temperatures, watched for signs of frostbite, and made sure everyone stayed properly hydrated despite the cold. And Do-hyun had been coordinating everything, making sure each team member completed their assigned task while keeping an eye on the bigger picture. To the council members watching, it looked like the humans were conducting scientific experiments while slowly freezing to death. "What are they doing?" demanded one frustrated alien. "The trial is about survival, not research." "Their body temperatures are stable," noted the medical officer with surprise. "They are moving constantly, which generates heat. Their clothing is well designed, and they are working together efficiently. But they have not built any shelter," argued another council member. "They have not tried any survival strategy," They are just measuring snow. Vroth watched the humans carefully. His old mind was starting to understand something. These beings were not rushing. They were not panicking. They were preparing. How long have they been there? He asked. 6 hours, came the answer. A shocked silence fell over the observation deck. 6 hours. The humans had already survived longer than the Vrex, and they showed no signs of distress. Their behavior is highly unusual, observed the science officer. Every other species has immediately tried to fight the environment. The humans are studying it instead. Maybe they are too stupid to understand the danger, suggested the insectoid member. But Taiho's observations of the failed species suggested otherwise. Through his communicator, his voice reached the rest of the team. All three species made the same mistake. They tried to use their natural advantages in an environment where those advantages did not work. Desert creatures trying to absorb heat that does not exist. Armored creatures whose armor becomes brittle. Energy beings whose energy gets frozen. Do-hyun listened to this report and smiled. And what is our natural advantage? Woo-jin answered. We adapt, we learn. We use what is available. Exactly, Do-hyun said. Hana, is your data complete? Yes, the engineer replied. I know where to build. Woo-jin, have you found the right snow? I have, I know which type we need. Yuna, are your calculations ready? The architect looked at her notebook full of sketches. Ready. Do-hyun looked at his team. 6 humans standing on a frozen planet where 847 species had failed before them. The wind howled around them. The temperature was deadly, but they were calm. Then let us begin, Do-hyun said. Up on the council station, Vroth leaned forward to watch the screens more carefully. After 6 hours of observation, the humans were finally going to make their move. He had no idea what was about to happen, but something in his ancient memory whispered that he was about to witness something no one had seen before. The humans began to work. The humans moved with purpose now. Their 6 hours of careful observation were about to pay off. Do-hyun led his team to the location that Hana had identified. It was a spot where the wind had created natural snowdrifts but also provided some shelter from the strongest gusts. On the council station, the aliens watched with growing confusion. What are they doing now? Asked one council member. They appear to be cutting the snow, replied another, uncertain. Woo-jin knelt in the snow with a simple tool from his pack. It was nothing more than a long, flat blade, similar to a large knife. But in his experienced hands it became a precision instrument. He began cutting blocks from the wind-packed snow that he had identified earlier. Each block was rectangular, about 1/2 meter long, and 1/3 of a meter tall. He cut them carefully, making sure each one was solid and well-formed. As he worked, he explained quietly to the others, the snow must be the right type. Too soft and the blocks will not hold. Too hard and they will be like ice, impossible to shape. This wind-packed snow is perfect, dense but still workable. Taeho and Hana helped him cut more blocks. Soon they had dozens of them arranged near their building site. Yuna took control now. She had spent the last 6 hours planning this structure in her mind and on paper. She knew exactly how it should be built. We start with a circle, she instructed, about 3 meters across. That will give us enough room for all 6 of us to sit and sleep comfortably. The first layer of blocks went down in a circle just as she said. But then Yuna did something that made the watching aliens even more confused. She began cutting the top of the first layer at an angle, creating a spiral ramp going upward. The igloo must spiral as it rises, she explained. This creates a dome shape without needing a center support. Each block leans inward slightly, supported by the blocks before it. Do-hyun and Nari placed the blocks as Yuna directed. Each piece of snow was positioned carefully. Each one was shaped slightly to fit perfectly with its neighbors. The structure began to grow, rising up in a spiral that curved inward. On the council station, Vroth suddenly stood up. His 4 eyes widened with recognition. I remember now, he said, his voice filled with wonder. In the human species file, there was a notation, something about their history, about frozen lands in their northern regions. He called up the human file on the main screen. Pages of information appeared, detailing Earth's many climates and environments. He scrolled through quickly until he found what he was looking for. Here, he said, pointing. Look at this. In their ancient history, before they had advanced technology, humans lived in frozen regions. They built shelters from snow and ice. They called them igloos. The other council members crowded around to read. The information was brief, just a small note in a very long file. But it was enough. "They are building a shelter from the frozen water?" asked an alien in disbelief. "That is their survival strategy?" "It appears so," Froth said, watching the screens again. Down on the surface, the igloo was taking shape rapidly. The humans worked together like a well-trained team. Ujin continued cutting blocks. Teho and Hana transported them to the building site. Yuna directed the placement. Dohyun and Nari did the actual construction. The spiral grew higher and higher. The walls curved inward more and more. The structure was beautiful in its simple efficiency. "This is an ancient technique from my homeland," Ujin said as he cut another block. "My grandfather taught me when I was a child. We would build these when we went winter camping in the mountains. The snow blocks insulate you from the wind and trap your body heat inside. The curve of the dome is important," Yuna added. "It distributes the weight evenly. The structure becomes stronger the more complete it is, and the spiral construction means we never need scaffolding or support." As the 8th hour of the trial approached, the humans placed the final blocks at the top of the dome. The last piece was a keystone block, carefully shaped to fit the circular opening at the peak. Dohyun lifted it up and settled it into place. The igloo was complete, but they were not done yet. Yuna directed them to build one more thing, a tunnel entrance. Not a simple door, but a tunnel that curved and dipped below the level of the igloo floor. "Cold air is heavy," she explained. "It sinks. If we build the entrance below the living space, the cold air will flow out through the tunnel. The warm air will stay inside. This is called a cold trap." The tunnel took another 30 minutes to complete. When it was done, the humans had created an entrance that would keep the worst of the cold outside. Nari used loose, powdery snow to fill in any cracks between blocks. Hana created a small window by finding a piece of clear ice and fixing it into the wall. It would let in light without letting in cold, finally. After more than 8 hours of observation and construction, the 6 humans crawled through the tunnel and into their igloo. On the council station, the monitoring equipment immediately showed a change. The sensors tracking the human's body temperature and environmental conditions started displaying new numbers. "The temperature inside the structure is rising," reported the science officer, his voice filled with disbelief. "Rising? How is that possible? They have no heat source. It appears to be their own body heat. The structure is trapping it. The temperature inside is now -5 degrees. That is 40 degrees warmer than outside." Shocked silence filled the observation deck. 40 degrees, repeated someone. "Just from snow blocks and body heat?" Vroth studied the readings carefully. "The snow is acting as insulation. The dome shape traps warm air at the top. The cold trap entrance prevents cold air from entering. It is brilliant." Inside the igloo, the humans were settling in. After the terrible cold outside, the air inside felt almost warm by comparison. They could not see their breath as much. The wind could not reach them. The structure felt solid and safe around them. Nari checked everyone's health status. No frostbite. No hypothermia. Everyone is in good condition. Dohyun nodded with satisfaction. "We set up a watch rotation. 2 people awake at all times. 4-hour shifts. We rest, conserve energy, and wait. Should we tell the council what we have done?" asked Taiho. "They can see us on their sensors," Dohyun replied. "They will figure it out." On the station, the council members were indeed figuring it out. More and more aliens crowded around the screens, watching the temperature readings, looking at the images of the strange snow structure. In 200,000 years, 847 species have attempted this trial, Froth said slowly. None of them thought to use the ice itself as shelter. They all tried to fight against it, hide from it, or ignore it. The humans looked at the ice and saw a resource, but will it last? Demanded the insectoid member. 72 hours is a long time. The structure might collapse. The cold might still seep in. We will see, Froth replied. Hours passed. The humans rested in shifts just as Dohyun had ordered. Those who were awake checked the structure, maintained the entrance, and kept watch. Those who were sleeping did so comfortably, wrapped in their thermal blankets, protected from the wind and the worst of the cold. The 12th hour came and went. The humans remained safe and stable inside their igloo. The council members began to whisper among themselves. Some were excited. Some were nervous. A few were already making new bets about whether the humans would actually complete the full 72 hours. Vroth watched the peaceful scene inside the igloo. 2 humans sitting quietly, talking in low voices. 4 humans sleeping soundly. All of them warm. All of them safe. Incredible, he murmured. The furry council member approached him. Do you think they will succeed? Do you think they will be the first to pass the ice trial? Vroth was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I think we are watching something that has never happened before. These humans did not try to conquer the ice. They did not fight against it. They worked with it. They turned the trial environment itself into their salvation. The other species will want to know how this was done, observed another alien. Yes, Vroth agreed. If the humans succeed, they will change how everyone thinks about survival. They will prove that sometimes the answer is not in fighting against nature, but in understanding and using it. Inside the igloo, Do-hyun sat awake during his watch shift. Nari was awake with him. They spoke quietly, not wanting to wake the others. Do you think the council expected this? Nari asked. Do-hyun smiled. I think they expected us to fail like everyone else. To panic, to freeze, to call for rescue. They did not expect us to spend 6 hours learning about snow. Woojin's knowledge saved us, Nari said. Without his understanding of traditional survival techniques, we would not have known what to build. And Yuna's engineering, Do-hyun added. And Hana's environmental analysis. And Taiho's observations. And your medical monitoring. It took all of us. Nari looked around at the curved walls of packed snow above them. It is strange. We are sitting inside frozen water and we are warm. Not warm, Do-hyun corrected with a smile. But not dying. That is enough. Outside, the wind continued to howl. The temperature remained at -45 degrees. The frozen planet continued its test. But inside the igloo, 6 humans rested peacefully, protected by nothing more than blocks of snow and their own knowledge. The trial was only 1/6 complete. But for the first time in 200,000 years, success seemed possible. 48 hours into the trial, something unexpected happened. A new ship appeared in the frozen planet's atmosphere. On the council station, Vroth looked up from his monitoring of the humans with surprise. Who authorized another species for the trial? He asked. The communication officer checked his records. The Shear requested permission 3 months ago. We approved their attempt. They were scheduled for today. Vroth felt a spike of concern. The Shear were a crystalline species, beings made of living mineral from a geologically active world. They were beautiful, intelligent, and desperate. Their civilization had been denied council technology for generations due to failing the ice trial. This was their 5th attempt. Should we warn them about the humans? Someone asked. The rules do not forbid multiple species attempting the trial at the same time, Vroth replied. Let them proceed. The Shear ship landed on the ice far enough from the human igloo that the 2 groups would not immediately see each other. 5 crystalline beings stepped out onto the frozen surface. They were magnificent to look at. Their bodies were composed of clear, rainbow-reflecting crystal that caught and bent light in beautiful ways. Each Shear stood about 2 meters tall, their forms humanoid but faceted like cut gemstones. Their leader, whose name translated roughly as Clear Light, raised one crystal arm to the sky in a gesture of determination. This time we will succeed, Clear Light declared. We have studied the failures of our previous attempts. We will prevail. Inside their distant igloo, the humans had no idea new arrivals had come. But 2 hours later, Taiho, who was on watch near the entrance, noticed something unusual. He crawled out through the tunnel to check their perimeter, and in the distance he saw the Shear. He immediately returned to the igloo. Do-hyun, we have company. Another species is attempting the trial. Everyone became alert. Do-hyun crawled out to see for himself. Through the blowing snow he could make out the crystalline figures in the distance. They are beautiful, he murmured, but they do not look well. He was right to be concerned. The Shear were in serious trouble. Their crystalline bodies, which worked perfectly on their warm volcanic homeworld, were responding badly to the extreme cold. The rapid temperature changes were creating stress fractures throughout their structures. Clear Light could hear the terrible cracking sounds coming from her own body. Her team was suffering the same way. Tiny fracture lines were spreading through their crystal forms like spiderwebs. We must endure, she told her team, even as pain radiated through her crystalline nerves. Hour 50 came. The Shear were failing. Their beautiful crystal bodies were becoming clouded with internal damage. One of them collapsed, unable to stand any longer. Inside the human igloo, Do-hyun gathered his team. "They are dying," he said simply. "The trial is individual survival," Tae-ho pointed out. "We are not required to help." "No," Do-hyun agreed. "We are not required. But we can," Nari nodded immediately. "I am a medic. I cannot watch beings suffer when I have the ability to help." Hana was already thinking practically. "Can we expand the igloo? Add a second chamber?" "Yes," Eunice said, pulling out her notebook. "We can build an addition. It will take about an hour." Woojin was checking their supplies. "We have enough fuel pellets to maintain a fire for all of us. And the ice for water is unlimited." Do-hyun looked at each of his team members. "Are we agreed?" "We help them." Everyone nodded. Do-hyun activated his communicator to the council station. This surprised the watching aliens, as the humans had barely used their communication capability during the entire trial. "Council, this is Do-hyun of the human team. We request permission to assist the sheer species." In the observation deck, chaos erupted for the second time in the trial. "Assist?" Vroth repeated. "That is, there is no protocol for this." The insectoid council member was scrolling through the rule documentation. The rules state each species must survive for 72 hours. They say nothing about species helping each other, because no one has ever tried to help another before, someone shouted. "Then there is no rule against it," Vroth concluded. He activated his communicator back to Do-hyun. "Human team, you are not required to help the sheer. Your trial is individual." "We know," Do-hyun replied. "But you said we must survive for 72 hours. You did not say we could not help others survive too." Vroth was silent for a long moment. Then he made a decision. "There is no rule forbidding it. You may help them if you choose." Do-hyun ended the communication and turned to his team. "Let us move quickly." The humans worked with the same efficient teamwork they had shown throughout the trial. Woojin began cutting new snow blocks. Yuna directed the construction of an extension to their igloo. Do-hyun and Hana built the new chamber while Tae-ho went out to find the sheer. He approached the crystalline beings carefully, his hands raised to show he meant no harm. "We are humans," he called out over the wind. "We have shelter. We can help you. Please come with me." Clearlight looked at him through fractured crystal eyes. Her species had no reason to trust anyone. They had been rejected and denied for so long, but she could see that her team was dying. Pride was worth nothing if they all perished. "We accept," she said, her voice like chimes in the wind. Tae-ho led the 5 sheer back to the human igloo. By the time they arrived, Yuna and the others had completed the expansion. The new chamber was connected to the original but separate enough to give the sheer their own space. One by one, the crystalline beings crawled through the tunnel into the blessed warmth of the igloo. The difference was immediate. Out of the terrible wind, away from the worst of the cold, the sheer could feel their crystal structures beginning to stabilize. The fractures stopped spreading. Nari went to work immediately with her medical supplies. She could not heal crystal the way she would heal flesh, but she had tools for sealing cracks. Adhesive compounds meant for emergency repairs of equipment worked surprisingly well on crystalline structures. "Hold still," she said gently to Clearlight. "This will help seal the fractures." As Nari worked on the sheer leader, Hana was teaching the others how the igloo functioned. "The snow blocks trap air in tiny pockets," she explained. "Air is an excellent insulator. The dome shape is important for structural stability, and the cold trap entrance keeps the warm air from escaping." One of the sheer, whose name translated as Brightage, was fascinated. "You built shelter from the frozen water? We did not think this was possible." "Anything is possible if you understand your environment," Woojin replied. He was already preparing more hot water for tea. "On our world, humans have lived in frozen places for thousands of years. We learned from our ancestors." Tae-ho brought the heated water to the sheer. "This is tea, a warm beverage. It will help your internal temperature stabilize." The sheer had never experienced hot beverages before. Their world was so warm that cooling drinks were common, but heating them made no sense. Clearlight took the offered cup carefully in her crystal hands. She sipped the tea. Warmth spread through her crystalline body in a way she had never felt before. It was pleasant and comforting. "This is good," she said with wonder. "Thank you." Hour 54 passed. Then hour 60. The humans and sheer sat together in the expanded igloo. The fire burned small and controlled in the center. Steam rose from cups of tea. The wind howled outside, but inside there was warmth and safety. Do-hyun spoke with clear light, learning about her species and their struggles. "We have attempted the ice trial 5 times, she explained. "Each time we failed within hours. Our bodies are not made for cold. We are creatures of heat and lava and warm crystal caves, but without passing this trial, we cannot access the technology we need. Our world is dying, and we need advanced terraforming equipment to save it." "You will pass this time," Do-hyun said with certainty. "You are safe here. You will survive the 72 hours. Because of you," Clearlight said. "Because you chose to help us when you did not have to." Nari, who was sitting nearby, spoke up. "On our world we have a saying, we are stronger together than apart. Helping you does not make us weaker. It makes us all stronger." On the council station, the debate had been ongoing for hours. What did this mean for the trial? If the Shear survived with human help, did they pass? What precedent did this set? Broth listened to all the arguments, but his mind was made up. Finally, he raised all 4 of his arms for silence. "For 200,000 years we have watched species fail this trial," he said. "We have seen them try to conquer the ice, fight against it, hide from it. We have seen species die rather than admit defeat. We have never seen what we are seeing now." He gestured to the screen showing the igloo interior. Humans and Shear sitting together, sharing warmth and hot tea in safety. The trial was designed to test more than physical survival, Vroth continued. It was meant to test character, to see how a species behaves when faced with impossible conditions. Do they panic? Do they give up? Do they turn on each other? He paused, letting his words sink in. The humans showed us something we never expected. They showed us that true survival is not about fighting alone. It is about adapting, learning, and when possible, helping others. They achieved comfort in hostile conditions and then shared that comfort with another species. The insectoid council member spoke up. "So what is your ruling? Do both species pass?" "Yes," Vroth said firmly. "Both species pass." 18 hours into the trial, the Galactic Council was forced to face an uncomfortable truth. The humans were not just surviving. They were comfortable. The monitoring equipment showed stable vital signs. The igloo's internal temperature held steady at -5 degrees. The humans rotated their watch shifts smoothly. They had even managed to sleep, something no other species had accomplished during the ice trial. An emergency session was called. Council members from all across the galaxy joined through communication channels. The debate began immediately. "This cannot be allowed," insisted a reptilian delegate. "They are using the trial environment as a tool." "That seems like cheating." "The rules state only that they must survive with basic tools," Vroth countered. "They were given no advanced technology. They built their shelter with their hands and simple cutting tools. They broke no rules, but no one has ever done this before." "That does not make it illegal," Vroth replied calmly. "It just makes them clever." The debate continued for hours. Some council members argued that the rules should be changed. Others said that would be unfair to the humans who had followed the existing rules perfectly. A few suggested ending the trial early and declaring the humans had passed. Finally, a decision was reached. The trial would continue as planned. The humans had broken no rules. If they could survive for the full 72 hours, they would pass. But the council had no idea what the humans were planning next. Hour 20 arrived. Inside the igloo, Hana was awake for her watch shift along with Taiho. The others were sleeping peacefully. Hana looked at her supply pack and made a decision. "We have been here almost a full day," she said quietly. "We are safe. We are stable. I think it is time for the next phase." Taiho raised an eyebrow. "Next phase?" Hana smiled and began pulling items from her pack. A small metal cup, a packet of compressed fuel pellets, a magnesium fire starter. All basic tools, all within the rules of the trial. "We are going to make fire," she announced. On the council station, alarms immediately began beeping. The sensors detected heat signatures that were not body temperature. "What are they doing now?" demanded an alien officer. The cameras focused on the inside of the igloo. The humans were building something small and careful. A tiny platform of ice blocks. On top of it, they placed the compressed fuel pellets. Hana struck the magnesium starter. Sparks flew, once, twice, 3 times. On the 4th strike, the fuel pellets caught fire. A small, controlled flame appeared inside the igloo. The council chamber erupted in chaos. They made fire in a structure made of ice. It will melt. The igloo will collapse. They will flood themselves. But Vroth watched more carefully. The humans had not placed the fire randomly. They had built a small platform that kept it raised off the floor. They had positioned it in the center where the dome was highest. The flame was small and controlled, and most importantly, the igloo was not melting. The temperature outside is minus 45 degrees, Vroth said, calculating quickly. The small fire will provide warmth but not enough heat to melt the thick snow walls. And if any melting does occur on the inside surface, it will quickly refreeze. The structure is stable. Inside the igloo, Hana placed her metal cup near the flame. In it, she had put chunks of clean ice from outside. We need water, she explained to the now awake team. We have been eating snow for hydration, but that uses body heat to melt it. This is more efficient. The ice in the cup began to melt. Soon liquid water pooled at the bottom. Hana waited patiently until the cup was half full of clear, clean water. Then she did something that made the watching aliens question everything they knew about survival behavior. She pulled out a small packet from her emergency rations. It was labeled as herbal supplement, meant to provide vitamins during long missions. But Hana had chosen specific packets, ones that contained dried tea leaves. She dropped the leaves into the hot water. She was making tea. On the council station, the insectoid member who had been so skeptical finally lost his composure. They are having a beverage, he shouted. In survival conditions, on the most hostile trial planet in the galaxy, they are having a hot beverage. Other council members were having similar reactions. Some were shocked. Some were amazed. A few were laughing in disbelief. This is impossible, muttered one alien. No species acts this way during a survival trial. They should be desperate, scared, fighting for every breath. Instead, they are comfortable. Vroth watched as Hana passed the cup around. Each human took a small sip of the hot tea. Their faces showed satisfaction and pleasure. They were not just surviving. They were maintaining their quality of life. What kind of world creates beings like this? Asked a gaseous council member. What kind of planet makes a species that can find comfort in the most hostile conditions? Vroth pulled up Earth's file again. He read through the environmental data more carefully this time. Their planet has extreme variations, he said slowly. Frozen poles where temperatures drop below minus 40. Deserts where it rises above 50 degrees. Mountains with thin air. Deep oceans with crushing pressure. And humans live in all of these places. How? Someone asked. They adapt, Vroth replied. Not through evolution of their bodies, but through evolution of their knowledge. They learn from their ancestors. They share information. They create tools and techniques for every environment, and they teach these things to their children. Inside the igloo, Nari pulled out her own contribution, a small portable stove, no more advanced than the fuel pellets they had already used. She heated more water and added different herbs from the medical pack. This one has ginger and mint, she said. It will help with circulation and keep us warm from inside. Do-hyun accepted a cup gratefully. The hot liquid warmed his hands and his core. After hours in the cold, even with the igloo's protection, the heat was wonderful. We are at the 24-hour mark, he observed. 1/3 of the way through the trial. Everyone is healthy. The igloo is stable. We have fire, water, and warmth. I think we can say the plan is working. Woo-jin nodded in agreement. In my grandfather's time, people would live in igloos like this for weeks during winter hunting trips. 72 hours is nothing. Yuna checked the structure carefully. A tiny bit of melting had occurred on the inner surface near the fire, but it had refrozen into a thin glaze of ice. If anything, this made the walls stronger. The igloo is holding perfectly, she reported. Better than I calculated, actually. The dome shape is distributing all forces evenly. Taiho was looking at his data pad, which was part of the basic tools they had been allowed. It had no communication capability, but it could store notes and observations. I have been thinking, he said. Every species that attempted this trial before us came from a single environment. The Vrex from a hot desert, the Krell from a moderate forest world, the Thum from gas clouds. Each one tried to use their natural advantages. And we come from a world of every environment, Hana finished his thought. We have no single natural advantage. Our advantage is that we learn to survive everywhere. Nari smiled as she sipped her tea. We are generalists in a galaxy of specialists. The hours passed peacefully. The humans maintained their fire carefully, Never letting it grow too large, never letting it die completely, they melted more ice for drinking water. They even heated some of their ration packs, turning the compressed food into something resembling a warm meal. On the council station, the watching aliens were having to reconsider everything. They thought they knew about survival. They have turned a survival trial into a camping trip, observed one council member with something like admiration in his voice. No, Froth corrected. They have shown us what survival really means. It is not about desperately clinging to life. It is about maintaining yourself in any condition. They are surviving with dignity. The furry alien who had asked questions before spoke up. If they complete the trial, they will be the first in 200,000 years. This will change everything. Yes, Froth agreed. Every species will study what they did. The ice trial will never be the same. Should we make the trial harder? Someone suggested. If humans can pass it, it is no longer an effective test. But Froth shook his head. The trial does not need to be harder. We need to understand what it was really testing. Not just physical survival, but mental adaptation. The humans saw a problem and solved it. They did not panic. They did not give up. They learned and adapted. Hour 36 arrived. The humans had now been on the frozen planet for a day and a half. They were halfway through the trial, and they were doing more than surviving. Inside the igloo, Do-hyun raised his cup of tea and a small toast. To human stubbornness, he said with a smile, we refuse to die, even when the universe expects us to. The others raised their cups in response. To adaptation, added Hana. To learning from our ancestors, said Woo Jin. To working together, Nari contributed. To understanding our environment, Yuna offered. To being comfortable anywhere, finished Taeho. They drank their tea warm and safe inside their igloo, while outside the frozen wind continued to blow at -45 degrees. The council watched in silence. Some aliens were taking notes. Others were already planning how to teach their own species what the humans had demonstrated. Froth sat in his chair, all four arms folded in thought. In his long life, he had seen many remarkable things,